And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Today we'll be talking about yet another coronal mass ejection, Cassiopeia A and Cassiopeia 2021 Supernova. And what about magic? Yeah, MAGIC15. Is the sun magic? Leave us a comment if you think the sun is magic. You're looking at 171 angstroms, which is a very specific portion of the ultraviolet light spectrum, one consistent with the UV emissions of ionized iron. Also colorized magnetogram on this composite image. We've got two sunspots in an active region rising. Active region down here, sunspot 2811 up here, 2812 here. Here's a full disk view in ionized helium, 304 angstroms. Probably the best wavelength to see filaments. And we saw some filaments erupt. Let's take a look. Here's the view from stereo A, which is located at Lagrange point 5. And so when viewing from stereo A, the Earth would be off to your right in this direction, and you can see this coronal mass ejection kicking off here. This is indeed in the Earth vicinity. I'm trying to draw a straight line here, and it's not cooperating. Earth would be off in this vicinity. That's approximately where the ecliptic plane is located. And let's take a look to see the trajectory of that. As we can see, it's sort of in the Earth-facing vicinity. Let's see if it's legit Earth-facing or if not. And indeed, it is not an Earth-facing coronal mass ejection. It's expected to miss well off to the west and a little bit to the north. As you can see, it's traveling in this sort of a direction. And you can see the trailing edge of that there. You can see a bit of an edge right in that area. It's a non-Earth-facing coronal mass ejection. Excuse me. It's a personal sneeze ejection. And here's the view from... Now, these are located at Lagrange point 1, folks, by the way, for your new viewers out there. The SOHO, LASCO C2 and C3 are what we've just shown. Here's the C3. And you can see the way that coronal mass ejection is propagating out to the mostly west, the west-northwest. Also a view of Venus there. And again, Lagrange point 1 is where that's located, stereo A at Lagrange point 5. Here's a close-up of sunspot 2811 and 2812 and 171 angstroms. Fantastic close-up view of that, and we'll also show you that same zoom in magnetogram. Some more views of that at the end of the video. So there's the magnetogram. Both groups stayed fairly stable here throughout the past 24 hours. That is 24 hours worth of data. I'll let it play through one more time here. And then we'll continue on and blast through a whole bunch of data on the Daily Space Weather. Here's a quick diagram of the solar system. There's where things will be in a week, about 2 days after the next full moon. And here's a star chart. If you need to pause it here, feel free. We've got the moon setting here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you want to make yourself a star chart, check out in-the-sky.org. Just put in your location. I like to draw in the ecliptic and face mine to the south. I'm currently facing the south. The sun is the strongest radio source in the sky. It outputs a 2800 megahertz, 2800 megahertz radio output, otherwise known as the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which is currently at 79 solar flux units. Here's the 1-year chart of that to put it into context. It's this black line, And the red line is sunspot number. You can see the proportionality of that. NOAA has largely removed its alerts for geomagnetic storms. So NOAA did call for a brief period of geomagnetic unrest here early today. You see that KP4 right there. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. And when I say eye on, well, the pun is intentional. Are you familiar with the term paroxysm? Well, it can mean a fit, attack, or sudden increase in the recurrence of symptoms as a disease, like a relapse, a convulsion, a paroxysm of coughing or sneezing, a sudden violent emotion or action or outburst. Well, here's a paroxysm. This just happened last night at Etna, Mount Etna, back into an active state. I believe it is still currently erupting. And we're seeing the periodicity change here. We're seeing the amount of time between each major eruption spread out over a longer period. So the longest yet interval here, 4.5 days, almost double the previous average. And there was an interesting sort of an uptick last night where some explosions merged into sustained lava fountaining, otherwise known as a paroxysm. So as of 7 a.m., the eruption is still going on strongly, with vigorous Strombolian explosions from the new southeast crater. Veniaminoff on the Alaskan Peninsula, exploding as well. 10,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl in central Mexico also exploding, 19,000-foot ash plume there. Pacaya in Guatemala exploding, 10,000-foot ash plume there. Fuego exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume above the Guatemalan volcano. And Sabancaya in Peru were unable to detect. If it's erupting, please don't pole vault the caldera. There's a time-lapse video of Fagradalsfjall by Vidburster Silfa Vestfjorda. I don't know how to pronounce it. Here's a clip of the time-lapse photography of Fagradalsfjall. Many of you may have been watching it live, and they've made a fantastic time-lapse imagery. The nighttime footage, of course, the most spectacular, as the incandescent lava illuminates the night. By the way, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Check out our own website, smashomash.com. You can find our smashomash.org Presents the Sun videos there, as well as links to our social media and to our merch accounts. We've got actually 3 different links there: SmAsho Merch, SmAsho Store, and Smash Store. You can also find a link to the forum on our homepage at smashomash.com. Smashomash.org will redirect you to smashomash.com. We've released the lyrics for Shut Up Fauci. We haven't made the song yet. Shout out to Keebs and his pal Al. Great job. And if you click this link right here, SmAsho Merch, it'll direct you to our Redbubble shop. There is currently a 15% discount going on. If you use the discount code MAGIC15 on checkout, you'll save 15% on any orders. And I'm actually wearing one of the products today. It's the Google Bias shirt. To use it in a sentence, I Googled it, and now I know less about it. So check out our store. Again, you can save 15% at checkout by entering the promo code MAGIC15 on all orders through tomorrow. Yes, this particular sale to save 15% on all orders ends tomorrow, March 25th. So get in while the discounts are fresh and existent. By the way, we are running a fundraiser in April. More about that later. We'll be offering a prize to be disclosed at a later time. Next, looking at earthquakes over the past 24 hours. No major quakes. One of the largest was a Chinese quake. A cheap Chinese plastic earthquake, okay? China, they stole U.S. intellectual capital, and now they've got earthquakes going on in China with stolen information from the U.S., okay? They're stealing the technology for your Callaway golf clubs and all kinds of other things over there in China. 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 A couple of deep quakes here in Russia and Tajikistan. That one near, it looks like it's on the southern tip of the Kamchatka Peninsula there. Small deep quake in Tajikistan as well, 4.2 magnitude. I think the largest of the past 24 was this 5.4 in China. So pretty calm as far as earthquakes over the past 24. Back to solar data. Here's the GOES X-ray flux as measured by the GOES 16. And we saw almost like a background level of B-class X-ray output from the closest star. Some minor flaring. This one happened at 4 o'clock Universal Time. Just after 4 o'clock Universal Time was the moment of peak flux, a minor B-class flare there. No proton spikes here, no surprises there. We haven't seen any significant coronal mass ejections about to strike the geospace. Part of the reason why we did a channel, by the way, is to do things like, well, forecast coronal mass ejections. Have you noticed? Probably not. You and 2 other people are probably watching the video. Here's the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days. And we see some spiky readings here. We saw a pulse of an additional coronal hole wind stream pulse, which we'll show you the signature of momentarily. First, some magnetic data. So here's the heliospheric current sheet, and you can see there is a North Pole-oriented current sheet approaching this green region. Earth solidly right now in a South Pole current sheet. And we'll keep you posted on this as well. We do see an active region in the southern hemisphere rising, so this may accelerate the time at which the North Pole current sheet arrives here at Earth. You can see Earth's potential field surface source line in orange. Keep in mind the data is 1 hour and 14 minutes old. Here's another view. This shows you the solar B field in blue. And you can see there are some coronal hole regions moving in here. You see some green there, a large green area. And I just wanted to talk about the BTBZ briefly here on this frame. So the BTBZ is the top pane in the real-time solar wind data that we show daily. And you've got 2 polar fields here. Here's the north poloidal field, and here's the south poloidal field. And these 2 fields overlap to some degree, and to the degree to which they overlap, that is the sun's B field. When we look at the BTBZ, the BT, expressed like this, is the total field strength of this blue field. Regarding the BZ, if the BZ is negative, it means that the south poloidal field is contributing to a greater extent than the north polar field. In other words, if you see a BZ of 12, if you see a BZ of 0, right? You see a BZ of 0. That means that both of these fields are equally contributing to the total field, the BT. And if you see a BZ of, let's say you see a BZ of -1 and a total field of 12, that would mean that the south solar polar field is contributing 1 unit more to the total field than the north solar polar field. I hope that helps a little bit. Moving on to the filaments and sunspot groups animation here. This is on the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. And if you see some vanishing filaments over here, it's because we've been seeing a series of coronal mass ejections. We'll keep you posted on those. Likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections not particularly high, although this beta-class sunspot does pose a slightly heightened increase for solar flares. And we do see some filaments not too far from those sunspots, so we could see additional coronal mass ejections and possibly up to a C-class solar flare. KP index currently at 3, and we're going to show you the little coronal hole pulse that we saw here. So you can see this slow uptick in the solar wind density, followed by a drop-off in the solar wind density and a small uptick in the solar wind speed at the same time, accompanied by a shift in the BTBZ. That is all typical of a coronal hole wind stream. So we see an additional pulse here from that south pole-oriented coronal hole that's now rotating out of view. So we saw the density increase to about 12 protons per cubic centimeter. Current conditions are all the way down to just under 3 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed now down to 430 kilometers per second as the coronal hole wind stream scenario subsides. So here are some Geospace Magnetosphere movies. This is the velocity. It's 4 hours of data. And you can see those high velocity zones on the dark side of the Earth. That is magnetospheric plasma being reintegrated into the solar wind, where it is accelerated back out into space. Here's the density, and we expect to see some low density coming in here toward the end. Keep in mind the density magnetosphere movie shows you low density in white and high density in dark blue, and that the range is only 0 to 4 protons per cubic centimeter. And this is a model based on the Space Weather Modeling Framework. You can read all about that on the Details tab at the bottom of this page. And here is the magnetohydrodynamic pressure, measured in nanopascals. And you'll see this drop off here as the solar wind density drops off. And again, each of these is 4 hours of data. We show it daily on the Daily Space Weather. Next, looking at ground magnetic perturbations. These magnetosphere movies are also 4 hours of data, but now we're looking a little bit closer to home here. Changes in the Earth's B field, otherwise known as Geospace delta B. So we talked about the Sun's B field. Now we're talking about the Earth's B field, the field that goes through the magnet. So there's Earth at the poles. Here is the global view. And we've documented lots of times when we saw major perturbations here south of South America. I would also note that the South Geomagnetic Pole is someplace down here south of Australia. And we've got 2 North Geomagnetic Poles. Now, we are streaming live right now to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. Thanks for tuning in, John and Songa24. Cheers. And thanks for leaving comments. So we are streaming live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. They've got a great mobile app. Perhaps consider downloading that. It's free, and it'll notify you when we go live. We don't always stream live to Twitch, but it's a great streaming platform. We also stream live regularly to YouTube. Don't forget to check out our playlists as well, youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. And thanks to our new subscribers over at YouTube, if there are any, as our subscriber count has been mysteriously stagnated at exactly 1,740 or 1,750 subscribers for pushing 3 weeks. It almost makes you want to vanish and quit your job. We are also on BitChute, and there is exclusive content there. If you're only watching on BitChute, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and vice versa. And let's do a cosmology segment. This one will be just integrated into the Daily Space Weather video. So one of the aspects of cosmology is that it's a crazy lab to look at things like the unified theory of physics. Since there isn't one really right now, we've got a couple different theories that sort of overlap in some ways and sort of don't overlap in other ways, like particle physics and quantum field theory and so on and so forth. The first item on our list, on our mission, you can read the rest of our mission if you like at smashomash.com/forum/mission. smashomash.com/forum/mission. By the way, the forum is where the Shut Up Fauci parody lyrics are located as well. Number 1 is to assist the study and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. Well, we've got a story about it. But first, I'd like to thank our patrons, a true source of funding for the content. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smashomash. Thanks for the great comments yesterday about why you're a patron, especially Evan, Mary, and whoever else commented. I may have missed some, as I see some notifications that I haven't gotten to yet. To quote Dr. Mitesh Patel, it's too early to say if this genuinely is a deviation from the standard model, but the potential implications are such that these results are the most exciting thing I've done in 20 years in the field. What's that all about? Well, it has to do with the degradation of mesons. Are they more likely to degrade into an electron or muons? Well, it turns out that they're looking more likely to degrade into electrons. Nobody knows why. Although the likelihood was thought to be equal, apparently it's not so equal. And you'll see this all over the Science Wire today. New result from Large Hadron Collider challenges. Leading theory in physics cannot be explained by our current laws of nature. So a meson is a type of quark which is believed to be a subatomic particle, and without getting too deep into the particle physics, it's really not my wheelhouse anyway. The Large Hadron Collider coming out with some more interesting physics here, and perhaps we will have to ask Eugene what he thinks about this. Regular contributor to the channel, Eugene Bagashoff. Don't forget to subscribe to Eugene's channel, Eugene the Philosopher. Yes, with a T. Philostopher, Philosopher. We're not going to pick a random number at all today. We're going to show you Cassiopeia A. So Cassiopeia A is the brightest radio source besides the sun at frequencies above 1 gigahertz. So this is believed to be approximately 11,000 light years away. Here's the X-ray output from Cassiopeia A, the supernova remnant. And you can see it's actually picked up in intensity here recently. That is the 30-day chart of the X-ray transient outbursts of Cassiopeia A. And we'll show you some imagery of this real quick. While we're talking about it, here's the view from Aladdin Light. We're going to zoom out a little. And there you can see some of the supernoval shells there. Here it is on Pan-STARRS. Great view, color image there on Pan-STARRS. You can see it looks like a sphere almost. And the image from Chandra is fantastic on this one, the Chandra X-ray image. Probably the best image you'll see here of supernova remnant Cassiopeia A. And let's stay in the constellation Cassiopeia. As we see a flare star happening, NovaCast 2021 has increased in its magnitude, now visible with binoculars. And you can see the increase here on that imagery. The location of the half crosshairs there. It's gotten much brighter. Will it continue to get brighter? Well, the answer is we don't know. But if you want to look for it, here's where it's located. You may witness a nova occurring if you look for NovaCast 2021, and you'll see this mentioned in various articles as well. It is in the sweet spot to see it go into a noval state, and this particular object is believed to be associated with some previous historic noval outbursts. So if you want to read about that one's on the phys.org Astronomy and Space section. NCAS 2021 has moved into a brighter state. And that's today's cosmology segment. Let's continue on to move into the realm of electrons. So let's talk electrons, as the Earth has belts of them surrounding the planet. Here's the 1-year chart of the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron flux. This is the measurements from the Geospace measuring electron flux. Relativistic electrons, folks. They're kind of important. Here's a 3-day chart. And we actually reached just above 10 times alert levels here. So we would have seen some major GPS errors around that moment. And for you new viewers, the N's and M's are noon and midnight local time for the Geospace. And we've just recently gone back into warning levels. And the forecast is for slightly lower levels here. And I have no argument with that. That's the NOAA forecast, which is the green square. The yellow diamond is the observation. And here's just a diagram of Earth's inner and outer Van Allen belts, as well as altitudes of spacecraft. Next, we're going to show you a visualization of about this distance, about 12,500 miles, to show you the inner Van Allen belt in visual form. It's the total electron content forecast. This will show you where GPS errors are most likely to occur, which is typically around the equator around noontime. We see some anomalies in Northwest Africa. Nothing to write home about. The electron bands are pretty organized right now. And here's a diagram of the atmosphere. We show this daily to show you where the F layer is. It's around 300 kilometers. That red F, that is the F flare. And that is where the Geospace is located. Here's an animation of the ionosphere. And it's showing you a full day here with 15-minute per second intervals. The measurement here is in vibrational frequency, megahertz. Sadly, the resolution is only 1 megahertz. And if anybody has a higher resolution version of this, leave us a comment and let us know. We may feature it on the daily videos. Ionosphere not looking particularly anomalous here. Shout out to Anomalous Howard. Do you still watch the videos? Did you notice the way we didn't button line? People asked us to report to the front. Anyway, here's the latest image at 8:45 Universal Time, looking pretty normal there. Next, looking at surface winds here. Here are the surface winds of the Western world. And let's move to the jet stream. So there are the jet streams of the West. Powerful upper level low pressure system here over Central South America. You can see a clockwise rotation there at the 250 hectopascal winds. Also a tripled up jet stream over the North Atlantic, as was the case yesterday. Here's the Eastern world's jet stream scenario. Move it just enough to see New Zealand there. Tripled up jet streams in the Northern Hemisphere and extreme meridional flow in the Southern Hemisphere. Check it out. Quite bumpy jet streams. Here is the North Geographic Pole. Since we showed you the South, it's only fair. There's the North Geographic Pole. And bear with it, we are streaming live. Here's windy.com's pressure maps as we continue on with meteorology. We're going to advance this into tomorrow. This is where the Euro forecast has pressure cells at 12 noon Eastern Time. Tomorrow on the 25th, a series of low pressure systems over North America, 4 of them. And also low pressure dominating the entire geographic South Polar region. Next, lightningmaps.org. They're back. It's what I use when I hear thunder. You could also check out blitzortung.org, which is the site behind the site. blitzortung.org. Shout out! And we see some near-terrestrial lightning here around Nolens. And you can see some thunderclaps propagating there. One of the great benefits of lightningmaps.org is you could convince your foes and your friends that you're causing thunder, I guess. Frighten the natives. Use lightningmaps.org. And let me just check the life of the stream here and the chat. And we are good to go. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map. Snow continues to fall in New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. Snow falling in Colorado despite a plethora of hot air coming out of that state. Why does so much hot air come out of Colorado and yet so much snowfall? Must be from pressure gradients. Shout out to our Coloradan viewers. And that is a talcum powder, baby powder Chinese factory boom. That is a talc, harder, you're as hard as talc. That is a Chinese baby powder factory talcum powder composition boom. Let's look at the cloud layer. Here's the cloud layer over the U.S., at least the lower 48. And that low pressure system that we zoomed in on yesterday is now over central Iowa. You can see that counterclockwise rotation there. Here's the water vapor map, which will give you an even better view. And all that hot air in Colorado must be causing snow in this atmospheric pond. And again, there's the cloud layer. There's the water vapor. Atmospheric river stretching all the way from Louisiana to Lake Ontario. So much hot air from Colorado. Geez. And we're going to show a hydrogen alpha image here. This one only 1 minute and 21 seconds old. From the Spanish Solar Observatory, part of the National Sunspot Observatory, El Teide. So there's a great current image. You can see these filaments up here, still attached. And how about bonus features? Here come the bonus features. So this is what I saw when I did show prep. Sunspot 2811, Sunspot 2812. And there's what the umbrae look like. We'll rock it back and forth. You can see 2811, this leading sunspot group, is indeed beta class, as it's got opposite polarity umbrae. The leading umbrae are North Pole oriented, and the trailing umbrae are South Pole oriented. Sunspot 2812 is alpha class, as it's only got one polarity umbra. They are pretty close together. They could actually interact directly. And let's close things out with some more close-ups of those regions. Here's 94 angstroms. And just give that a minute to initialize, folks. It's well worth it. Fantastic view of a couple of sunspots there. Again, the likelihood of solar flares remains a little bit elevated here as a result of the proximity of these sunspots to each other, as well as the beta classification of sunspot 2811. There are still some filaments as well. Don't be surprised to see additional coronal mass ejections if they happen. We will cover it, and we'll tell you all about the actual trajectory of them, as opposed to the imaginary trajectory of them. Here is 193 angstroms, another UV emission spectral state of ionized iron. And it's time to close this thing out. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, attempt to understand the physics, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Visit our sites, Go get yourself a discount by ordering some merch at Redbubble. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back.